Would you like 1 lump of sugar or 2? Variety is the spice of life. Don't spill the salt. It's funny how these old cliches, which relate to those tiny jars of powders in the kitchen cabinet to the wide world around us, carry more meaning and history than most people ever begin to imagine. It probably never occurs to you as you're adding a little bit of curry to that pad thai or that dash of mustard in your macaroni and cheese, just how much people have gone through for that hint of flavor in their cuisine. Wars have been fought, empires forged, and new continents discovered, all on account of these powdered beauties. At various points throughout history, some spices were even worth more than gold or other precious metals, and were used for everything from religious rituals to medicinal remedies to cooking. The ancient Egyptians were the first culture to use spices frequently, with archaeological findings around the Nile dating all the way back to 3000 BCE. Many spices were affiliated with the gods in Egyptian religion, and their preservative qualities made them a natural fit to the mummification process. So, when the ancient Egyptians filled their tombs with various spices, they were being both practical in preserving the departed and trying to gain favor for them in the afterlife. Roughly a millennia later, the Egyptians and other Middle Eastern civilizations opened up the spice trade with Southeast Asia, creating one of the first cross-cultural economies. In addition to trading the physical spices as currency, ideas on how to use these dried goods were exchanged as well. Cultures shared their recipes for food, their medicinal remedies, and religious practices, all of which included spices. By the time the Roman Empire came to power, spices were used as much for payment as they were for anything else. Spices were a sign of wealth and position in Roman society. During the decline of the Roman Empire, the emperor was even able to persuade the invading barbarians to call off their raids with a payment that included 3,000 pounds of peppercorns. By the Middle Ages, spices were in high demand and short supply. Over 2,000 pounds of pepper and other spices were imported from the Middle East every year, an amount that could buy enough grain to feed 1.5 million people for a year. Venice and other Italian city-states held the spice monopoly in Europe, making the region fabulously rich and eventually paving the way for the Renaissance in the 14th to 17th centuries. In a sense, spices were what paved the way for Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa and Michelangelo's ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. The Venetian hold on overland spice trade with the Arabic nations is what led Portugal and Spain to search for a sea route to India so that they might get their spices at better prices and break the Italian monopoly. The Portuguese sent Vasco da Gama to make the first seafaring voyage from Europe to India, which set the table for their lasting imperial presence in the region. The Spanish sent Christopher Columbus on a similar mission, but instead of reaching the Indies, he discovered the New World. In the centuries that followed, the British, Dutch, and French all sent their own expeditions. By the 17th century, the wealthiest corporations in the world all dealt in spices. The shipping lines used to trade spices were eventually expanded to include all manner of goods, creating the global economy we know today. In the 21st century, spices are now just one cheap good amongst many, and no longer as monetarily valuable as they once were. Still, scientists have discovered new reasons to be excited about these dried plants. Modern medical researchers are finding new and unexpected nutritional properties to spices that do everything from lower cholesterol to boosting your immune system. Spices have once again become valuable, only now it's because of their medicinal qualities and not their prices.